on it here as a fun activity. In the meantime, let's head out. We'll follow Richard along the
Everybody, please be sure you sign in so we make sure we have your names and
the trail that they made starts here. This is part of it.
Okay, so please stay on the trail even in the beginning, guys. Hey guys, I gotta ask you to let me have Richard.
Richard, need to go to the front. Richard to the front.
I need you. Okay, let's head out.
Well,
I had more than one and handed it to somebody.
She's got it right there. It is.
I have one now. Oh, there you go. So you said you're on
but the sniff.
Not professionally, not a degree or anything, but I'm just an avid bird watcher.
Okay. And about goats?
And since the 50s, they built the dam system. The structure was so they really had they protected it in the way they thought they were going to protect it. And since once that fish, the silvery minnow, they had to eat some of their words and backpedal because it was not thriving. Like originally, it used to be like a serpent.
The river, yes, which is the natural way for it.
And now it's like a channel.
Yeah.
So it's not healthy, and the trees are dying. I'm 56. Those trees are probably 50 years old, so that's their kind of 50-year-old. What I heard. I didn't read it, so I'm not going to repeat it to anybody, because I could be wrong.
Sounds like an excuse to be able to start getting a bulldozer down here, frankly. Right? Oh my gosh.
My opinion is that there shouldn't be trails for anybody along the riverfront. I don't care who you are.
Right close to the riverfront.
Right.
Yeah.
All the trails should be back. I know it's like one thing to have like a viewpoint, like an access point, but to actually have trails that go along there,
that parallel
nobody
the
should be
river.
allowed to walk
Right,
there.
that's the most, that is the absolutely most sensitive area of the Bosque. Stream sides and river sides are incredibly important and they're incredibly sensitive.
Ultimately, though, if you're doing battle against the idea of we're entitled to go wherever we want, whenever we want, regardless of what the impact of that is.
Right.
Sometimes we just have to say, look, we're not entitled to do that. The animals in Japan get their space too, and we can't have it all.
Right, and with there's such an immense, exactly, there's such an immense amount of habitat loss that they have between the Bosque and the
I know, they did it, and
Nice guys. They're so bought into the
dog like this gravel?
He seems to like it okay. He likes rocks. We do a lot of rock climbing at the Petroglyph National Monument. He seems to enjoy that. Yeah, he'll pretty much walk on anything.
He's got tough pads.
He's got tough pads.
Mr. Swick, you just are everywhere.
There you go.
Easier to walk on. Yeah. And it's easier to bike on.
Top of this is pressure box. They probably want to build the trail up a little bit so that they can contour the trail so that water will run off it and water won't pond on it. It'll be a very uniform, perfect, very obvious, constructed trail, a very obvious developed trail in the middle of the Bosque. You can see that although the trail ultimately will only be 6 feet wide, they had to do damage to a much wider area in order to do that. I think the initial grading, the initial plowing was a 7-foot wide trail, plus just the tractors made some additional areas that have been damaged. These kinds of trails in the initial plan that was being put forth by the city, some of these other trails were being watched.
Yeah, we are. The police is
some of these spur trails were going to be closed. I don't know, and also there was going to be some restoration work. Now that the city has kind of preempted the planning process and gone off on its own, I don't know what the status of those are. It would be a very, very sad thing if the restoration that was planned did not take place.
If the Benton thing passes on Monday, are they going to take this out? What we're standing on now? Or Wednesday, I mean?
Well, the legislation does not require that it be taken out. The legislation just requires them to stop work while the planning process is completed.
Let me just add quickly, you guys, you know, one of the reasons that people have been so concerned about such a wide trail is because it's really not easy to manage multiple uses on one trail. If you're in a wheelchair and a bike and a horse and all of those users are trying to negotiate the same wide trail, you've got horses getting spooked by bikers, you've got people in wheelchairs trying to get out of the way. So one of the reasons that people reacted so strongly to a wide trail was from a user standpoint. But the other thing is, if you look at the character of a small, narrow trail like this in relationship to the rest of the Bosque, to something like this, it really is out of character with the Bosque. And I think it's worth noting that it is not open space staff doing this work. It is a landscape company being contracted by the city to landscape the Bosque. Okay, so that's just something really important to keep in mind. If you look at the Forest Service's ADA guide for trails, you see a narrow trail with not infrequent places for people to stand aside so that other users can get by. So there's nothing particularly Americans with Disabilities Act compliant with this trail. So the other thing is that I want to be really clear about is that the Bosque Action Team does agree with closing some trails, restoring areas, and doing a better job of identifying what trails are the proper ones to use. But that doesn't mean building a 6-foot wide trail. Question?
Well, and wouldn't the upshot of having everybody on the same trail cause people to want to get away and make more trails, which would defeat the point of closing some of the trails?
Good point. Any other questions? Question here and then a question there.
Have you had any other counselors endorse the Benton legislation yet?
Not yet, but we're still working on that.
Yes, of course, this came together very quickly at the end of last week, and it was just introduced at the close of the day on Friday. I anticipate that there will be support on council for it, but we haven't.
When will it be in meeting?
Okay, so this is going to be heard on an emergency basis on Wednesday. That's why we're having the rally and going to the council meeting on Wednesday, because it will be heard on an emergency basis. If they can get the 6 votes to hear it on an emergency basis, that will be heard on Wednesday.
Then we had Sandria in the back, and then this woman here, and then we'll go to the siphon for another. Oh, I'll go here to the gentleman in the front, the lady in the back, and then we'll go to the next one.
I just wanted to point out also is that if you notice when people are walking the side and all this
newly pushed over, we don't have enough rain or water coming. We're in a drought. So none of this stuff, which if you lived in Kentucky, would have enough water to restore itself. We don't have anything to do that. So all this stuff that has been damaged, it's going to have to work even harder if we get rain to recover from what's being done. So just keep that in mind as well. It doesn't grow back without water, and we don't have water.
Good point.
Okay, gentleman in the front.
Why aren't we supposed to walk this?
Oh, well, because technically it's a construction site. They're building this trail. We're upset about that, so we came to see it, but technically the signs say don't walk here because they are in the middle of construction. And then the women here?
I was up at Montano and Coors yesterday behind Bosque Prep School, where they've been doing a lot of building. They've been doing some building from the road up to the Bosque Prep School, but in the Bosque itself, I took a number of pictures. They have just devastated areas, particularly along the river. And they're saying that it has something to do with Oxbow, the Oxbow project. I don't know if you're aware of that, or what's going on with that, but they're using the bobcats for that, and
They're removing the jetty jacks and saying they're
Okay, guys, so just so everybody can hear the question, she's concerned about the area on the west side of the river where there's been some intervention with the Bosque, and they say it has to do with the Oxbow Lake. Richard?
So this is a project of the Corps of Engineers, the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and the Oxbow at one point in time was a wonderful wetland habitat. There are very few wetlands that are left in the middle Rio Grande. And at one time this was a wonderful place. It was a lot of open water. It got lots and lots of bird use. But eventually over time, the beavers came in, they dammed it up, which is good in some ways, but they cut down the cottonwood trees in order to dam it up, and eventually that area pretty much filled in solidly with cattails. So it became just no open water. The Corps of Engineers now has a project as part of their restoration money in the Bosque, and they are trying to reopen a portion of the Oxbow so that there is once again open water flowing through the Oxbow. Now, I have not visited that site. It may well be that there are some staging areas that have caused some damage down there. The area there was plowed by Ray Graham at one point when he owned that property. He wanted to put a golf course in the Bosque down there. But I don't know. The Corps has committed that they will restore any damage that they caused because of their construction. And I'm hopeful that in the end this will end up being a positive for the Bosque to have once again some water flowing and some open water in the Oxbow.
They're removing
Now,
the jetty
one
jacks.
thing,
And they're removing some jetty jacks.
one thing I'll say, guys, is we have an idea about maybe having sort of Bosque sentinels who are people who can just kind of report on what they see as they walk. You can send those notes to savethebosque@gmail.com. If you live by the Bosque, you see something. You know, sometimes it's just a silvery mineral canal that they're opening up, and you know, it fills right back up with sediment, but it's worth the try. So not everything that happens in the Bosque is terrible. But do email us when you see stuff. We're going to continue walking, but I did want Victoria to introduce herself. She is part of the youth presence in protecting the Bosque.
Yes, hi. My name is Victoria. I work with Olay, and this is Mercedes and Miles. My two, they also work with me. Yeah, and so our purpose for conservation here is because behind you is the aquarium, and before it wasn't an aquarium. Before it was 42 acres of land that communities of color took part in and had fun there and cruised with their lowriders and had a good time. And then the city closed it down and they made an aquarium. And I just see the same thing happening here. So that's our concern.
Great. All right, guys, think about your questions. We'll stop again at the siphon. Oh, and there's a comment from Fred.
I hate to make this a commercial, but we don't have $2 million like the mayor does to fund us. A couple of people asked me about my Save the Bosque t-shirt. We do have some of them for sale. My van is right at the top of the hill. When this is over, I'll be selling from the back of the van.
Okay.
Go, Fred. Okay, let's head out. Stay on the trail, please.
be nice things to wear on Wednesday.
Okay. Oh, hey, my dad.
So this is not the final.
No, I know. This area is the best habitat. You can see down here where it gets a lot of water. We have these willow thickets down here. That's great habitat for lots of birds. Willow flycatchers. Certainly. So this is very, very good habitat down here. And there's concern because this was previously a much narrower trail, and now it's a much bigger trail. It's going to attract a lot more traffic down here. And it's going to be more of a disruption for the birds and other animals that use this area down here. Now, in addition, as we get further down, there'll be some areas that is not such terrific habitat, but there's really great potential in those areas for restoration. Because if you grade this down toward the river, it'll get everything closer to the water table, it'll get rid of some of the non-native species, and it will allow native species to then recolonize. And in particular, we were hopeful that at some points they would move the trail away from the river a little bit and allow more of that restoration work to occur. But now they plowed in this, this larger trail all along this whole stretch, which goes down, I think, for about 1,000 feet along the river here.
And Open Spaces was actually talking a lot about doing just what you were saying on the walks that we went on. Right?
Yes, yes.
Richard, can you yell the comment out again?
Yes, so this area is, again, this is the most valuable habitat. This is terrific habitat. These are all native plants down here by the river. There's lots of willows. There's some seep willow. You can see sunflowers. I see that there is a Russian olive there. But basically, this is really, really good habitat here. And putting this wider trail in by the river is going to increase impacts rather than decrease impacts, which is what should be done in this particular area.
And you should also note how narrow this is. If you look at the Bosque to that area, this is a really narrow little spot. I mean, taking a foot off, 2 or 3 miles is not going to make any difference. This is feet. It's very narrow. It's really delicate.
Okay, let's head out.
So they're planning on, as their plans stand now, they're planning on putting that gravel here as well?
So again, the gravel is just the intermediate base, and the top base will be crusher fines. And yes, they are planning doing that all the way up to the I-40 bridge, the whole stretch.
Is there any grounds for stopping this through the disturbance of flycatcher habitat? I didn't think you were allowed to do that.
So there are. Let's go on and I'll address it in a minute.
Yes.
Yeah.
Has the city done a cost-benefit analysis?
Just from a business trying to think like this.
The mayor is paying off his contractor buddies.
Our billings reached my 20s before business schools even existed. And I saw the old system, and then the business schools were founded, and mentality just changed. There was no loyalty to the people that worked. There was no sense of history.
I was like, why is she going?
Long
We agree with you. Let's shit on this trail.
I knew she was
Oh, the dog's doing what dogs do, huh? Now that's not the right response.
What's a little message for the mayor?
Ready to go.
She's like,
Do you want to take a picture?
Man, that's stuff.
yeah, they'll just have to shut down the 11th floor for a bomb scare.
We'll let everybody gather. Now, has everybody signed the petition/sign-in sheet? I haven't. Here's Richard behind you.
Thank you.
That's okay. That's okay. You don't need to sign it twice. Once is enough. Anyway, Michelle, you counted like 5. So.
Because you signed it online, you don't need to sign it here.
Okay, just one logistical thing. Who is at this point after this stop needing to head back? Just raise your hand. Okay, so those of you who are going to head back, why don't you wait together, gather, walk back together, and I just want to talk to you guys for a few seconds before you leave. Then should we give Sarita the floor? So I want to introduce Sarita Strang. She's part of our Bosque Action Team. She is the leader and innovator of our group called the Bosquitos for kids and families, but she also is a recently certified occupational therapist. Almost certified occupational therapist, and did one of her main projects on ADA access to the Bosque. Sarita, can you tell us about the Bosquitos and the activities and about ADA?
Okay, a couple things. The Bosquitos is a child-centered, family-friendly group. We get together about every 6 weeks, 2 months. We go out into the Bosque, usually for an hour and a half, 2 hours, do something to learn. Then we each take one pledge that's an action that we can do to live in a way that's more harmonious with the earth or to protect the plants and animals of the Bosque. Usually we're outdoors. We are doing, our next 2 trips are a bird outing with a Montessori school teacher who studied ornithology at Cornell. We'll be out there, we'll be meeting at Tingley Ponds. Also, we're gonna be doing a tour of the aquarium with Vicky Regina, who's also on the Bosque Action Team. She is giving us a tour of the aquarium as it's going to be the story of the Rio Grande and the Bosque told through the entire world water system. All of our events are free except this aquarium one, and we're getting a group discount, so it'll be very discounted price. If you're interested, you could let me know or go to our savethebosque.org website. Also, it's been a bit disheartening to me that people have called the city and the city said, well, we're doing this for ADA access, because I did a 100-hour project looking at access to the Bosque for people who are wheelchair users. I went to every single access point in the city, took photos, and did surveys of people who use wheelchairs. I don't think the city's done anything remotely similar. And so I would like to say that I think I've also, the Bosque Action Team, I've reported on ADA access 3 times. I've given our group talks on things like People First Language. I've, I'm not a wheelchair user myself, but I teach people how to get back to life after things like spinal cord injuries. I think there's probably no one in this group who doesn't want someone who's a wheelchair user to not be able to come to this beautiful place. But I also think we need to think about things like, well, if a trail is more ADA accessible, how do you get down to the trail? For example, the Nature Center, an incredible trail, cemented trail, the Aldo Leopold Trail. Every single person I knew who uses a wheelchair says, well, that's a great trail. Too bad there's no way to get to that trail in a wheelchair. You know, we need to consider things like that. I also think that it's okay to say we don't want people who use wheelchairs or people who walk on 2 feet to go into nesting grounds. So, you know, that's my little spiel. I just feel like if you hear the city saying we're doing this for ADA access, on the walk I went on with the city, I was the one showing them my report and bringing this issue up, and they were saying, oh, that's a good idea. So I really think our Bosque Action Team is very committed to helping people with any kind of disability get more access to the Bosque. And thank you.
Yeah. So can people go to Bosquitos stuff if they don't have kids with them?
No, you can come any age to a Bosquitos meeting, but just know if you feel like someone's talking to you like you're a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old, it's good for me. I understand things better. You know, it's just more geared, and people kind of run around, and you know, you get more crafts than your usual and snacks than your usual activity.
Kids in this country don't go out on their own anymore.
All right, so we've been having some measuring going on in the trail, and Elaine, you say that you haven't measured anything less than 8 feet?
I found about 7.5.
Okay, so we are going to have to amend our communications to say 8 feet. What I'd like to do is just a little group action here in which we will shout together, "Save the Bosque, no 8-foot trail," and I'll record it, and we'll put it on our Facebook site. But I do need you to squeeze in a little, and everyone come forward a little. We're gonna say, "Save the Bosque, no 8-foot trail." It's 8 feet.
Yeah, but they're claiming it's 6 feet.
Well, we claimed it was 6 feet.
They told us it was going to be 6 feet.
They told us it was going to be 6 feet, but they've measured it at 8.
And I
Yeah,
should
but
just
if they're claiming it's 6 feet, then if we say 8 feet, then they can turn around and go, oh, but it's not 8 feet, it's only 6. Yeah,
We do
right,
too.
but this is about PR.
Okay, we're just gonna say, "Save the Bosque."
Good
Okay? So, I'm gonna ask you to do it. I'm gonna press record, stop, and then I'll say again, and you'll do it one more time. Okay? How about we say, "Save the Bosque, public participation first."
There you go.
Save the Bosque, public participation first. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Save the Bosque! Public participation first!
Do it one more time, and then we'll cheer after you're done.